Morning, everyone. I'm going to be with you very, very shortly. I'm just trying to find on YouTube the actual broadcast of this service. And for some weird and wonderful reason, YouTube choose not to file them in any particular order. So it makes it very, very difficult to actually locate the current broadcast. And the reason I need to do that is because with the lack of control panel on Hangouts, which is how we're coming to you live on YouTube. I can't see questions or who's in the room or anything like that unless I actually log in to the YouTube channel, which is kind of weird, but it's the way it works. So just bear with me a tick whilst I actually find that. And I've scrolled down for about 3 minutes now. This is ridiculous. You may get the idea that I'm intolerant of stuff that shouldn't be as it is. I mean, goodness gracious me, this mob are massive, as in wouldn't mind owning shares in them, and yet they can't, for some weird and wonderful reason, get this in shape. I wonder how you guys find this every day. It's kind of weird. I'm trying. Maybe if I give it a couple of minutes, it might wake up to itself or something. I don't know. Let me refresh the page and start actually doing something, because if there are people in the room, then this is just completely and utterly boring, of course. All right, what am I going to do? I'm going to have a look at the Forex factory first up. That's normal practice for me, and that's my modus operandi every single day that I trade. And the reason is I want to know what's going on. And sadly, I know what's already gone on today. And it was the GDP figures coming out of China, which were a joy to the Chinese, because the forecast was for the GDP to have fallen, yet it remained static at 6.4%. Now, that in itself isn't, I guess, fantastic and over the top news, but given that the world trend currently is for GDP to be falling and the economies to be slackening, if you like, or economic growth to be faltering, that probably is good news. Well, it's good news that it didn't fall in any case, but it's probably good news that that probably is greater than the sum of its parts, if you know what I'm saying. I'm trying to explain what I mean, but what I mean is it's better news than it would appear to be, in my humble opinion. And certainly that will affect currencies around the world, not least of which the Aussie, and the Aussie has appreciated on the back of that today, without question. And that doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon, it must be said. Of course, the other numbers were good as well. The fixed asset investment year to date on year was, as per forecast, better than previous, and industrial production, which is another great number for the Aussie. Why? Well, if they're producing stuff, then they're using raw materials, and a lot of the trade between China and Australia is that Australia supplies a lot of raw materials to China to make these industrial products. So that at a whopping 8.5%, although it's deemed to be medium news, is in fact a big shot in the arm, not only for the Chinese economy but for the Aussie dollar. And I expect that the Aussie dollar will continue to strengthen on that news unless something of a headwind gets in its way. And at this point in time, I have no idea what that might be. And we continue to see, and we'll go to the charts in a tick and have a look at the Aussie and how it's performing. But I'm still trying to would you believe, the YouTube broadcast of this program. And as you can probably guess, I still haven't found it. Unbelievable. What I might do is just shut that down and go back in here. Sorry guys, I know you can't see what I'm doing, but unless I can log in, then I can't possibly see any questions that may come around. So here I go again. And still nothing. Unbelievable. Find yesterday's. That's handy. But alas, I cannot find today's. All right, I'm going to give that a rest for a bit again. I don't know what I expect to happen, to be absolutely fair. But what isn't happening at the moment is I'm not finding it. Righto, let's get on with the show, and I'll take a break in maybe 5 or 10 minutes and see if I can actually log into this ridiculous thing. All right, so apart from what has already happened today, in approximately an hour and 40, 50 minutes, something like that, we're going to be showing the CPI figures, the year-on-year CPI figures coming out of Great Britain, forecast to be good, and the PPI figures, which of course is the what I call wholesale goods, and retail goods will follow that. Wholesale prices tipped to be down, and retail prices tipped to be up. Different periods, of course. That's a month-on-month price, and the retail prices are year-on-year. So a little bit of a mixed bag there, but the headline figure, the CPI, will be the one that moves the market if there is a disparate entry, say up or down. I dare say the market will move. Surprisingly, well, for mine, surprisingly, the pound has not rallied at all since the Brexit hiatus that we've now found ourselves in. I don't know what it's waiting for. Maybe it's waiting for this. Maybe it's just not going to rally at all. We'll see. I was expecting that to happen yesterday. Hasn't done so. We'll have a look at that chart in a minute as well. I guess on balance, the biggest news of the day, if you trade the CAD at all, would be the CPI figures and trade balance coming out on that currency. CPI figures month on month, not tipped to do anything interesting or different than previous, and the trade balance is tipped to be a little bit better than it was previously. We shall see. And then, of course, later on, we've got Mr. Mark Carney talking. What's he talking today? He's talking about, I don't know what he's talking about. He's talking to or at the Network for Growing the Financial System conference in Paris. Paris, of course, in mourning at the loss of Notre Dame. And that wouldn't be a very nice place to be at the moment, I wouldn't have thought. So, Growing the Financial System conference, whatever that is, growing the financial system. Okay. I don't think that's going to move the market too much in its own right, but it's what's said around that, of course, and questions that are asked after the presentation or the speech is delivered that will potentially move the market, depending on what he says, of course. So what we've got to do, in a couple of hours, we're going to look out for the CPI figure coming out of Great Britain. We've got to then, when I'm asleep, watch for the CPI and trade balance coming out of Canada, and when I'm really asleep, Carney's speech. And we've got to take into mind that we should have definitely a buoyant Aussie dollar on the back of these Chinese figures that have come out. And if you're trading the yuan, of course, then you want to be around that one as well. What's the market think? Well, today, since we opened in New Zealand, we've had A little bit of a rally on the euro. Pound not doing too much. Dollar yen not doing too much. Dollar Swissy. It's all about the Aussie. Um, not as much as I would have thought actually. We'll have a good look at that. That doesn't seem to be right, but I can't imagine it's not. We'll have a look. Maybe it's come off a bit since I last looked. And the Kiwi is off due to what happened in Kiwi land. Something happened in Kiwi land. Numbers. Kiwi CPI figure. Oh yeah, missed the forecast, but on balance, it hit the previous. So forecast was here, so it's hit the previous. Not good. There's no question about that, but not disastrous. One wouldn't have thought. However, the Kiwi has suffered on the back of those numbers. That is for sure. Righto, moving along. Where should we go first? We'll have a look at some charts, I think. Obviously, those of you who don't know, Ash not with us today. He's on fatherly duties, and that's exactly where he should be, of course. Let's start with the pound. And yesterday I saw this ascending triangle, and we had a bit of a discussion about triangles and where they're supposed to break. And as I said at the time, two schools of thought here. One is that it will exit in the same direction it entered. So if it's coming from the high side, it's going to exit the low side. That's exactly, well, we call it a breakout when you stretch. In fact, that may become false. But that's where it broke in the first instance. So that has certainly occurred. I'm still of the opinion that we're going to find the pound up here somewhere at some stage. It's just a matter of timing, of course. And I think we can probably get rid of the ascending triangle now that it hasn't done its job for me. I trade ascending triangles to the high side. I did say yesterday, I don't know if it was in this show, it might have been in the evening TTR show. In fact, I think it was, that there was an alternate here to add a short to your position, to the long position, which I was trading long above this candle here. And I figured when this doji appeared that there was a chance this may break to the short side. So what my counsel was, if you don't know what you're doing here, don't do it. But if you do know what you're doing, there is an alternate to the long here, and it is to place the short at the entry, at the stop loss of the long, and keep the long and have the stop loss in its place. So the long entry becomes the stop loss for the short, and the short entry becomes the stop loss for the long, if that makes sense. Now, I don't know if that actually hit one. I didn't take the trade, which is kind of weird because it's something I do like to do. It's about a 30 pip risk. So there was 1-to-1 in that, and you'd still be in that trade-free trading if you'd taken that on board. But those of you who aren't familiar with the way that works, then maybe we'll have time and I'll come back to it a little bit later to explain it a bit further. Maybe that's a good idea. Something I do like to do when I get the right conditions, and this appeared to be the right condition. Yet, to be perfectly frank, I went to dinner, and that's not in front of the charts. You don't trade. Simple as that. Okay, what have we got? We've got a euro dollar. Now, I'm a little bit peeved with this one. Not the fact that it's actually done what it's done, but the fact that I didn't get on board. And the reason I didn't get on board this one is not because, again, I didn't want to. In fact, my counsel in the morning show, the TTR morning show this morning, was that this would be an excellent place to go long, but it's the B place to go long. The A place to go long is definitely from down here. Obviously, we haven't had that opportunity. Should I say yet? I think I probably should say yet. Maybe there's still that chance that price will come down here. Doesn't look like it at the moment, I've got to say, but there is still that chance that price will come down here. And if so, what I'd definitely be looking for is price to break this trend line, consolidate at the bottom of the range, get back above the trend line, retest the big confluence here of weekly pivot, monthly pivot, and trend line, and go long from there. It'll be pretty much the same entry as it would have been this morning. Again, I don't trade the small time frames in Asia session. Had you done so, there was probably an entry there if you wanted to take a massive risk, and that the risk is that you're trading into an untested daily pivot, which has a great tendency to turn price around. How far we never know, of course, but on its first attempt, just like this, bang, bang. So, that would have been exactly the same scenario here. And I don't trade that unless I've got profit in the bank before that daily pivot. So, I can't say I would have traded that. As I said, it was the B way to go long. The A way is still down here. May not get the chance, as I said, and for all intents and purposes, this looks as though it wants to go longer. I don't know that I can find a way in from this point, however. In fact, the only real option here that I would have is to trade it back to here. I don't even know if I want to do that. If it does set up, we'll have a look at it, but I'm bullish the cross, and it's pretty tough to trade against your bias unless you've got an absolute gilt-edged setup, and quite frankly, I don't see that anytime soon. Maybe later. Depends on what this candle does and how it closes, and then what happens post that, of course. So to the news of the day, I suppose, and that is the Aussie. The Aussie took off on the back of the Chinese numbers, which were posted earlier today, and smashed through, well, I suppose you could say yesterday's high, Monday's high. How significant is that break? Yeah, it's not that significant, really. I suppose it's a month high. It hasn't cracked it yet, So really, it's come to the top of the range at this point. But you'd rather be long than short here, there's no question. It looks as though it wants to go on with the job. Trading it from here, look, you could have traded, again, not a great entry, in my humble opinion, very risky. If you were to take that as a rejection of the weekly pivot, for instance, and gone long here, I mean, you'd be in profit at the moment, but you wouldn't be going great guns. And you've had to trade through this resistance level, which frankly is still holding the price up. So, danger, warning, Will Robinson. This is really not an easy trade to take on the daily chart, that's for sure. And whilst it was there this morning, I just couldn't take it, and I haven't. And the consequence, of course, is that I'm not in the long, and would like to be. I'd much rather be in it than out of it, to be fair. But as I say, it still hasn't gone that far in terms of yesterday's high, but it has travelled a little bit of a distance today. We've come from down here, 71.39, about 65 pips. At the moment, the Aussie is probably not travelling too far or too much farther than that. And that brings me to another topic that we'll discuss in a little bit, the average true range. And very much worth a look at that as well. It's a very important number and puts you into context as to where the price may go on any given day. What do we do from here? Well, we wait. Again, we have to wait. I don't even know how I can trade this long now, to be fair. It's got to come back to at least this trend line, maybe get underneath it, and then above it and retest before I'd even consider it. It's really going to be difficult, I'd have to say. Sadly, because it is definitely one I was bullish on and looking for an entry. Again, it's just similar to the euro. It came to the B position, which is the weekly pivot. The A position is the trend line. And had it come down there, given us a break here, back above and retested, the B position and the trend line, that's the go zone. That's really go zone. This one, look, you do take these on, you trade them, as long as you're not trading into resistance, etc., etc., etc. You've got to have all those parameters working for you, but you don't go in at full stake, because the A position is still definitely in the mind of these bears here, in my opinion. It's just the bulls have overrun them. For how long? Well, I've got to be honest. I think this is on its way, and I think I've missed it. But never say never. The market does funny things at funny times. Aussie yen, we were talking about this yesterday as well, and the daily charts was again exactly the B position, the A position being down here to trade, the B position's where the trade came. And again, wrong time of day for me. And this was news anyway. To be in the market there is a pretty tough assignment. Again, on the 4-hourly chart, you've got this rejection bar of both the trend line here and the daily pivot. There's a case for going long here. It's not in my rule book to do so, because I'm risking 30 pips to trade into, in my humble opinion, about 4 or 5. So it's a risky trade to take. Look, I know people who aren't concerned with all of that and have had a good day on the Aussie today, no question. And there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just how you play the game. And if it works for you, do it. It's as simple as that. Don't listen to anybody else if what you're doing works. If what you're doing works on a regular basis, you don't need to know anything else about that particular scenario. If that particular scenario works for you, just keep doing it until it doesn't work. Consistently, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about one-offs. They don't count. It has to happen consistently, and it has to happen. I'm not saying consistently is work twice this week. I'm saying consistently is it works more than it doesn't, and that's what you need to take into consideration. So, is it spilt milk, or am I sour grapes? That's what I'm looking for. Sour grapes that I'm not in the market and I've missed these trades that I'm saying these things. No, it's not. It's definitely not. It's experience over time, and that's telling me that you keep doing the things that work, you'll keep adding to your account. If you keep doing things that don't work, guess what happens? Yeah, that's right. So Aussie yen, what am I waiting for? Well, again, I can't trade it long from here. That's not a good candle, to be fair. It's one that's broken resistance, yes, but it's settled on the resistance level, closed on the resistance level. So I'm not convinced that this is the time to go long, and certainly I wouldn't go long at this point. I've got to wait till it comes back here, and that's exactly what I will do. Let's go to dollar yen. Here's another one. This is just absolutely stuck in the mud. It can't get out of its own way, frankly, over the last 48 hours or so. Tried and succeeded in going, about 5 pips above the highs. Tried to break out, but that was it. It's as good as it got, and immediately back to the daily pivot. Now, here's one that I would consider. I said consider. I didn't say I'm going to do it. But that is one that I would consider trading long. Why? Well, the difference here is we've actually cleared out the highs. If I go to the daily chart, barely. If that's the high there that we're trying to get above, it's at 112.13.1. This went to 112.15. 15.9. So it has broken that level by about 2 pips, but it hasn't closed above it, and that's significant as well. But I would consider doing that because it has technically taken the high out and it has retraced and retested not only the daily pivot here, but really this level here as well. So these closes here are significant on this double top. So we've actually taken that high out. We've taken these out, of course, and now we've come back and retested them. So that is a consideration to trade long, but there's always something at the moment, I tell you, and this is why it's so frustrating. When I look at the chart, and I don't know if you guys were in the show last time, I was Ashless, I'll call it, Ash wasn't here. I was talking about average true range and why I don't trade at certain levels or beyond certain levels. And this is a case in point. If you have a look at this chart, we'll go a bit tighter, you can see that we've got the daily pivot here, but we've also got daily resistance 1 and daily resistance 2. Now those two figures may seem, or those two, are they figures? We'll call them figures. Those two little numbers there, as insignificant as they may appear on the chart, are very significant. And they're significant because price seldom goes outside of them. Now you go on any single day across here and I'll prove my point, no question. But you go over here and my point's shot to pieces. The question you must ask is, how often does this happen versus how often does this happen, and this happen, and this happen? Every range is a waiting point for a trend, and every trend is a roadway to the next range. So there are times when that theory of DR1, 2, and 3 are shot to ribbons. But by and large, and I've proven it that many times to people I've taught, that it's the exception rather than the rule. And the rule is here, that DR2 is definitely a place I don't trade beyond. And for that reason, I can't go where I want to go here. So I've got absolute bias in probably 4 or 5 different crosses that I can't trade because of my rules. And that, at the end of the day, will save me a lot of money. It may cause me grief short term, but it'll save me money long term. I know that. This is kind of interesting. It's just about a 1-to-1 there. What cross is this? Euro yen. Yeah, let me have a look at that trend line. Yeah, it's a daily trend line. Thought so. So we better sharpen that up. This is also important, folks. If you're using trend lines, make sure they're right. Otherwise, they can get you into all sorts of bother. Now, that trend line there is a daily trend line. So I can't really trade it on the smaller time frames. So what I will do is put it where it belongs, on the daily chart. So when I go to the 4-hour chart, it ain't there. But what I can do is put my own little 4-hour trend line on there. And that becomes a different kettle of fish altogether. That's my dog Angus. Sounds like my wife might be home. I'm not sure. So where I had a false break potential on the daily time frame, it's certainly not evident with that trend line, but maybe it is through here. No, it's just a mess, isn't it? Break, 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 break. No, it's not a trend line I would like to rely upon, because it's been violated just that many times. It's crazy. So really, what have I got here? I've got a currency pair that has put in a double top. It's just oozed its way down like lava flowing. And now I'm looking for what? Looking for something like what I'm seeing at the moment, but I don't like the candle that precedes it. I'm really, yeah, I'm looking for a lower high, but I'm looking for a lower high that isn't surrounded by doji bars, which are absolutely prevalent on this chart. Give me something like this, a couple of these. Give me a direction at least, and then sit me with a lower high over here, maybe, that stand alone and not amongst all this noise. Then I can look to trade, but not at the moment. Of course, this will break. It has to. The market will break, but I really am guessing as to which way at this point. It looks, for all intents and purposes, as though it will break to the high side, because that's the momentum. And this is the retracement. Perhaps. We don't know that yet. Is this the reversal? We don't know that yet. But whilst ever I've got all this indecisive noise going on here, the market's not telling me anything, giving me no hints at all. The one thing I would say is the longer this consolidates, the better it will be to trade, because we can then go down to the smaller time frames and start to trade inside a rectangle. We might even do that now. I can see a rectangle there, so let's even put it in. The market's open, by the way. Normally we have a look at the FTSE at this point in time, but I know nothing about the FTSE. I'm not Ash. Where will we start here? We'll start here, I think. We use this high, these lows, and that's about us, I reckon. So we've got price trapped in here, and now we can start to think, okay, let's trade this inside the box. And I know if you've been taught to trend trade, that this is something you've been taught not to do, and that is perfectly true if you're trading trend. I'm not trading trend. I'm trading whatever I see. I don't care if it's trending or ranging. In fact, inside a lot of trends, there are a lot of ranges. As I said before, a trend is merely a roadmap to the next range. And for that reason, I tend to stick in ranges more than I stick in trends. So it's perfectly clear to me that the market is going from this support level to this resistance level, to this support level, to this resistance level. Why wouldn't I be able to take advantage of that if it continues to do so? And that's absolutely what I'm now focused on doing. So once I've come off the top of here, I'm not suggesting that I just see it hit the top and then put in a sell order. What I am doing is waiting for confirmation that the bulls have lost control, and that confirmation would come in the form of a lower high. So I hit the top, look for a lower high, and trade it short. Then, when it gets to the bottom, I look for the bounce, then I look for a higher low, and I trade it to the top. How simple is that? Dead simple. The problem is, of course, we don't always get the lower highs. But if this range continues and goes on and on and on and on, like it did over here, let's see if this worked over here, guys. See how many trades there were available over here. And then we'll ask ourselves, well, why didn't we trade it? Now let's have a look at this range. So we won't count this because the range hadn't formed, but you can see where I'm going with it. Double top at the resistance level. That's what created the resistance level. Lower high down to the bottom of the range. Did we get a higher low? Yes, we did. Here's the higher low. We can trade it towards the top of the range. We didn't make it, but we can make money in there. Then we came back. Did we get a higher low? Not till here, but it was there. We could trade that. Did we get a lower high? Not really. Not on the 30-minute chart. Might have been one on the 15 or the 5. But I don't see a trade there. And then it's gone on too long. I wouldn't have taken that. And it's petered out. But now we're back in another range. And that's exactly what I'll be looking for. So just giving you a little insight as to how I actually operate. And that is one of my favorite things to do, trade from the top to the bottom. In fact, it is my favorite thing to do because it's such a simple and productive way to trade once you've recognized that we're in a range. So guys, where does that leave us? That leaves us with looking for a short here. If this breaks, of course, new ball game. But if we do get the lower high here, then happy days. Euro pound. This is exactly the same scenario. We've broken out to the high side. And I quite like this. False break, potential false break. If we were to come back in here, I wouldn't just look for the lower high. I'd load up on the lower high. Because 3 strikes in a row, for me, are out. So false break, back in here, lower high, decent trade. That's what I'll be looking for. That's Euro pound on the 4-hour chart. Now, of course, it could go sky high, and that's perfectly fine. Doesn't bother me at all. It'd be even nicer if I was in it. But this is the plan that I take into the day. This is what I'm looking for all the time. Something that stands out as a possibility. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. So that's Euro pound. Do I trade it back to here? Is the question. Well, I can, but I would need to have something that is indicating to me that it's about to turn around. And that bar there ain't the bar that tells me that, nor any of these. Maybe that one would have got my interest, but now it's gone. And to be fair, this may just go bang without warning. Because what really has happened now, if you take a good look at this, say you were short here off the top, and your stop loss was here. Bang, stop's gone. Found liquidity. Say you got short again, put your stop loss here. Bang, gone. Do you see where I'm going with that? So eventually, what is going to happen here is if they keep knocking off the stops, then they're going to find liquidity long, because if you're selling here, guess what your stops are? They're buy orders, right? They're buy orders. But if they run out of buy orders, because all the people who were short are now long, guess what that provides? That provides liquidity, because everyone's buying here. And if you're a big fella and you actually want to sell, what do you need? You need liquidity. So that's why this can just go bang like that. Because the people, this may not be the case. It's just a classic scenario where if the big guys are wanting to get short here, and they keep knocking off these highs, then they're going to find only buyers here, and bang, that's the way they'll go. So we'll see. I'm not predicting that in any way, shape, or form. I'm just alerting you to the fact that it could happen, because that is a classic scenario. Looking for the shorts here. The other way to look at that, of course, is if there are only buy orders here and the big guys don't want to go short, guess what will happen? Wishta, up here. That's Euro pound. And I'll just check the euro, see how it's going. Yeah, I don't want it to break long yet. I want to be in on it. Pound yen. Yeah, for the second time, pound yen has come back to the backside, if you like, of this broken trend line. and for the second time it has rejected that. For the first time, it's rejected the weekly pivot in confluence with the trend line. It's kind of a place that I'm thinking this could very easily go long. But guess what my rule is? I don't trade into the daily pivot if it's untested without profit. And I can't possibly take profit there. There's no room to take profit there. The 30-minute chart's a bit of a mess. It's probably a little trend line, sneaky little trend line coming through here that I might be able to use a bit later. Not great. There's probably one coming down there that I might be able to use a bit later. Yeah, it's kind of coming to the pointy end, isn't it? Where we would expect it to break out, but no clues. If I go to here again and see that this is potential bounce, it's also a potential false break. So, you know, the weekly pivot is the key here, and what happens either side of it will determine where I'm looking. So, if for instance we break below, we come back inside this triangle, then I would be looking for a retest of that area, and that would give me a short bias. If, on the other hand, we broke the daily pivot and retested the daily pivot, that would give me a long bias. So there's no clear-cut case there for pound yen, in my humble opinion. Now, EuroCAD has already set up, and I was looking at this earlier, it had already set up as a short. Not here, although I haven't seen that candle, but I was watching it form. So technically, I suppose it's coming off a double top. It is a lower high. I think it's just happened too fast for me, and that's why I don't like it. The real entry for me would have been underneath this bar here, with a view to breaking to the short side of the, I'll call it a flag, but it's getting a bit long in the tooth to be a flag. I would have been thinking break here, but again, my entry would be here, and I'm bang on top of the weekly pivot and the monthly pivot and the trend line. Can't do it. Maybe I don't know, it's kind of risky, but I can see why you'd want to trade that candle right there. I can see that. Not convinced, guys, not convinced. You know what's giving me the hesitation here? It's not just the abruptness of the move here. It's more going back in time to what I spoke about earlier, where the euro didn't come to position A, the pound didn't come to position A, the Aussie didn't come to position A, and they took off. I'm seeing something very similar here on EuroCAD. It hasn't come to position A. So if we got to here, I'd be thinking bounce long. But very, very frustrating. I also like to trade the potential break, but I just can't enter the market short here. I probably could there, but again, that's what's giving me the spooks. We haven't reached these levels here, and apparently the market isn't paying too much attention to them at this point in time. If it goes there, it goes there. Happy days. And if you're trading it, happy days again. But something's just spooking me here, and I'm not going to take that short. Aussie CAD. Yeah, Ash has been keen on this short, and I think eventually it will happen. but I'm just not too sure when. Well, I think I flagged this area here as the place I'd like to think about shorts, and I think maybe that's going to be the case. And point in time, we're talking the 20th, which is, well, we come back Monday or Tuesday actually. So I think Monday's a holiday here. I don't know if it's a holiday everywhere else. Easter Monday, is Easter Monday holiday? Don't know. So yeah, look, I am frustrated that I can't get in the market. It's not for want of not seeing things. The direction is there, but the entries are just not in my book anyway. I can totally get why other people are finding ways into the market because there's obvious things happening. That's an obvious thing on the euro. It's an obvious thing on the Aussie. Don't know so much on the pound. No, it's not really obvious. Well, or I suppose it is at the end of the day. That bar there you could trade, and that's a lower high. You could definitely trade that short. So there's obvious things that are happening, but unless you're trading just levels, which I'm not, you're having a hard time getting into the market. If you're trading levels, you should be having a good time because you could place limit orders here even. Once you've hit those levels, bang, away you go. So it's not hapless by any stretch. It's just a bit frustrating for my strategy, and that happens. In particular, I'm a 30-minute trader primarily, and when you see something like this happen on the Aussie through Asia session, and it happens, of course, on the Aussie a bit because of news at that time of day, you've missed the boat. By the time I come in the UK session, I've absolutely missed the boat on this, and now I've got to wait for goodness knows how long before I get another opportunity to trade. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's because it's, I guess, backing up with everything else at the moment. It is becoming just a tad frustrating. Guys, I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to try to get into the program on YouTube so I can actually see questions if there are any. So bear with me for 5 minutes or so. What is it? 19 minutes past. I'll come back just before the bottom of the hour. And if I do find some questions in the meantime, obviously I'll come and answer them. Otherwise, I will resume speaking in about 7 or 8 minutes, I suppose. Okay. Okay, guys, I am back, and I will resume commentary. Why not? And I did find the link to this show, so I can now see questions if they are put in the box. So feel free, guys, if you want to put some questions in the box, then go for your life. As I went to the pause, I think I said something like doesn't suit my strategy, the market at the moment, which led me to think, I wonder how many strategies everybody's trading these days. When I started trading about 12 years ago now, must be getting close to 13 actually, I was taught that you either be very good at one strategy or you be very good at one currency pair and trade multiple strategies on that currency pair. And I believe that was true for the longest time. But things have changed in the last 3 or 4 years, I suppose. The last 3 or 4 years, I would have to say. Things have most definitely changed. And I guess it's down to the bots, the supercomputers, call them what you want, all the quants out there, trying to battle with us mere mortals. And the market is definitely a different place these days than it once was. And there are many different ways to knock this over. And personally, I now trade probably 2 or 3. I'm scared the death out of me. Hang on 2 secs, guys. There we go. I got rid of that. So yeah, I'm trading a couple of different strategies these days. I've still got the core strategy at my heart, and the reason for that, of course, is I've been trading it for 7 or 8 years solo. It's the only thing I've been trading because I believe in it so much. And that too has changed because of the difference in the market these days, because of computers, I guess. It's not the only reason, I suppose. We've got people like Trump and all sorts of things that he's created, but leave that aside. Really, the strategy struggles to find as many entries as it used to, without question. That is the case. And if I've been sitting on my hands here for days now, I think I've had 2 orders, one of which triggered, one of which didn't. And for that reason, I guess alone, you could be excused for finding something else to do, or a different way into the market. In fact, I would encourage that to be the case. These days, it's pretty easy to semi-automate your trading, basically. The guys at ATW, for instance, have come up with all of these different scenarios and tools to use. We're trading across, I think, about maybe 9 different strategies, and they're picked up. Most of them are picked up. Very difficult to pick up my strategy on an EA, but the EAs that have been produced, doing marvelous things with the other strategies, should I say, more predictable strategies. Yeah. And I've had the programmers trying to nail me down to actually try and give them parameters around which I trade. I'm reticent to do that in many regards, because it is such a personal strategy, I suppose, and developed it over a long period of time. I don't know that I actually want it automated, to be fair. That's one reason, and the other reason is it means a whole bloody lot of work, which I'm too old to do, in my humble opinion. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I'm just going to have a look at the 30-minute charts to see if there's anything we need to pay attention to here. It's a no there on cable. Oh, that's sad. Sad for me. That's good for other people. And of course, if you're in the euro long, you'd be quite happy with that. Sadly, I'm not. What could I have traded that break and retest? Could have. But again, at resistance, too tough. My strategy won't allow me to do it. And therefore, I miss these continuations, I suppose. And that looks, for all intents and purposes, as though that's going to take this high out. Does too, doesn't it? So, yeah, potential entry there, but no. The Aussie, no. Inside bar, inside bar, inside bar. Aussie yen, 30-minute chart, no. Dollar yen. Man. Even the range is ugly. It's just not a pretty thing to look at. If I were to put a rectangle in here, where do I put the bloody thing? Do I start here where I would normally start and then pick these lows? Yeah, probably. That's probably the range I would start with. But then it's squeezed into here. And I don't think I could even trade that in here. It's not possible. No. So we're in the middle of nowhere. It's just no man's land in here. And, to pick a direction here, you've either got to have balls of steel or a crystal ball, one or the other. And I've got neither. So it's definitely a no for me. But I'm keen to find an entry here because I know this is going to explode at some stage. Absolutely. It's going to take off. And I'd like to be in that. That'd be good. There's kind of potential here to think short, but you could have thought short here, you could have thought short here, and you just keep getting knocked over. It's too dangerous. Euro yen, needing that to come back inside here if I am to find a trade. Euro pound, same thing. I don't even have to look at the 30-minute chart. Pound yen, locked inside the pivots here, exactly the same as dollar yen, except a little bit more price action. At least we've had a little bit of a run down before we've hit this area here. But gee, we look landlocked, don't we? Weekly pivot, daily pivot, trend line. This is going to smash out of here as well. Where? Yep, good question. My thoughts are with the high side. I think it'll break long, but think and act are two different things in this case. So I'm not going to take that on because I don't see a setup. This is the most obvious one, I'd have to say. Euro CAD short is the most obvious, but with the euro going so strong and the question marks I have on this one, then it's an obvious no, don't bother. Aussie CAD, as I said, I think I can see this up here, but trading that at the moment, very, very difficult. Maybe not so much. Let me see what I've got here. Close below. I was thinking if we had a clear retest of this trend line rather than a break of it, that may have served up an opportunity to trade long with the right candles. But we've had a close below. Now, if I go back to the hourly chart and this were to become a bullish decisive bar, and it's got 23 minutes to do so, then I would be thinking short is the way to go here. Just on a 30-minute basis, I'm not talking reversals, I'm not talking anything that suggests that we're going down here just yet, because I see this level here and I see this level here has to be the area I look for real shorts. But in terms of a 30-minute chart where I can take profit here, it doesn't have to reverse. It doesn't have to go anywhere. It only has to go to the daily pivot to make money. So if I can get, maybe a 10 pip risk, I haven't quite got a 10 pip reward, so I'd probably just take profit there and leave it open to get maybe 2 to 1 or something out of the trade down here, if it were to be the case. So the way I would deal with that is take profit here, get half off the table, and move my stop to a safe position where I couldn't lose on the trade. The free trade scenario. That's one of the creations of my mentor, actually. And that would be the way I'd be looking. So take profit here just before the daily pivot, leave something open, not something, half the position open down to here, but move my stop so I couldn't lose. We'll see how that pans out. That may be the case. Euro Aussie at this support level, as you can see, and therefore I would be waiting for this to give me a higher low. It looks a bit dicey, however, because of where the pivots are situated. They've both been broken and rebroken, so I wouldn't be that concerned, but they're always attracting my attention. The other way to look at this is to go into a smaller time frame. Yeah, I'll show you what I was seeing. What I was seeing was a break of this trend line, price consolidating below it, but failing to get back into the what I call the go zone, which is kind of up here. So a close up here and a retest of that area would have got me interested long. That's going to have to stay on hold for some time now until we do get back in here. So if, for instance, the current bar were to break back inside, take the pivots out, come back and retest that area, that would tell me there's an opportunity to go long here. But until that happens, again, that's a no. So again, the trip around the grounds has produced only frustration, and unfortunately, I just can't find a way in, guys. I mean, I can just crash my way in, but that's not the way I trade. Certainly not on this strategy, and I'm not trading another strategy at the moment because they are both end of day strategies that I've added to my portfolio, which takes me back to that point. Sorry, I've got a big wind blowing here, and that's the blind smashing against the door that you can probably hear in the background or even in the foreground. Hang on, I'll just fix that. Sorry about that. There's a big storm coming. Okay, so where were we? Looking for entries as always, but nothing doing. Guys, I don't really see much point in hanging around too much longer unless you have some questions. And I've opened up a few possibilities for questions today, given the little commentaries that I've been having on the way I do things. If you've got any questions around that, I'm only too happy to answer them. If you've got any questions around anything, I'm only too happy to answer them. But really, at the end of the day, you pretty much know what I'm waiting for in terms of trading. And I think I'll probably hang around for a couple of more minutes and give myself an early mark, unless you do have any questions. And as I say, more than happy to answer them. Ash back tomorrow, of course, so we'll be talking the FTSE again. What's it doing? Let's have a little look-see. Not a great deal. That's the 15-minute chart I'm looking at. Yesterday produced a failed attempt to break to the high side, and still, we find ourselves in consolidation on the FTSE. So I don't know that would be pleasing him too much. He's in the same boat as I am. The way he trades is not being suited to the market at the moment, and that's a bit of a pain in the ass. Oil. trade up on its highs at the 64.50 area, and you'd be probably a brave man to go long right now, but you'd also be thinking that's the way it's going to go. Brave to go long because you're at resistance. You know, there's a strategy that that is happy to take these highs on and smash through them. Mine's not one of them, but I'd like to know that one. I'd like to learn that one, because there's often times where you think, oh, this has just got to go, but it's impossible to trade it. There's no way I could trade long here, no way. A few reasons. If we go to that particular, we're even at monthly resistance too. Where's DR to? DR1. Wow, it's a big range of this one. So DR1's not even in picture, but these two pivots here are just like magnets to me. You know, I cannot get them out of my head when there's a big gap between the pivots untested and price action. I've just got to see price down here, and even look for a trade towards that area is often the case. If I can find a reason to trade that short, then that becomes a sport that I really, really enjoy as well. But not just yet. What do I need to see? I need to see a reversal of some kind, and then guess what? A lower high. Then I can go short. So the opportunities are simply not presenting at the moment. Maybe later in the day, just maybe. What's my favorite? I'm going to leave you with my favorite one of the day. My favorite potential scenario of the day. Yeah. I don't think Aussie CAD's hit. Aussie's a bit strong today. I'll go with Euro Yen. If Euro Yen, let me look at the daily. Yeah, it's almost there now. 4 hour. Yeah, tomorrow I'll have a good look at that in the daily chart. But in the meantime, the smaller time frames, this one in particular, 30-minute, if I were to see price give me a close here, so consolidate now, another consolidation bar, then get back underneath here, retest the top of the range, so retest the level, what, 126.64-ish, so price back under here, retest there, short, profit at the daily pivot, leave something open, take all at the weekly pivot. That would be my favorite trade of the day. Of course, it may not set up, and that would be typical of the moment, wouldn't it? But yeah, that'd be the way I'd like to go. Euro Yen short and 30-minute time frame. It's going to take forever to set up on the 4 hour, so I won't go there, but exactly the same scenario: consolidate underneath, retest, short, bang. In that case, I'd target something off at the daily pivot, depending on where the entry is, something off at the weekly pivot, target monthly pivot down here. And that's about all she wrote, guys. So I don't see any questions flooding into the questions box, so I am going to bid you adieu, folks. Again, a barren session in terms of trading, but it's something up with which we must put, as one famous English politician once said. So guys, oh, hang on, take it easy and we'll see you again. Yep, Pedro, thanks, mate. I will take it easy. I don't have to work tonight, but I'm going to keep my eye on Euro Yen, and I'm going to keep my eye on cable as well. I've got a funny feeling that's going to come back. We shall see. Okay, guys, I'll leave you with it. Have a great rest of Wednesday, rest of hump day, and hopefully you can find a way in and a beautiful exit to put some money in the bank for you. See you tomorrow. Have fun. Bye-bye for now.